Let's see, folks. Let's see if we in. I'm your host, Mike Pugh of the FBC Virtual Channel, and well, actually the Virtual Intel Channel. Sorry about that, folks. I tend to mess that up because it's a new channel name. So I'm gonna be streaming live soon. I'm just working out some kinks in the background. So give me a little time, and I'll work things out. Today is going to be a live stream covering the subject of animation, obviously, but it's going to be more about an error that I had in my previous live stream. I had a faulty glitch issue where I could not figure out how to get the flip of an animation or animation flip to successfully blend together with another animation. I was using the timeline. So I chose to use the NLA editor, and even that failed. So this video is going to show y'all folks that epic fail, and how far I can go with it and what I can do with it. It's going to be pretty interesting. And right now, all I'm doing is working in the background, making sure that I got everything working. I got my water. I may start before 7 a.m. So just try to hang around if you got a chance to and you want to check it out, or come back around 7 a.m. and it should be ready for y'all folks to dig in, so to speak. So let's see if we got anybody in the live session yet. Anybody tune in? Nope, nobody tuned in yet, so that's cool. It's all good. Whoever drops in, I'll be willing to answer some questions. It's not going to be that long. I don't think it's going to go for 2 hours because I don't have that much time. I actually got to hit the bed, hit the rack, hit the sack, so to speak, and catch some Z's because I've been up all night trying to figure this out. But I want to get this out of my head before I forget it. I tend to have a short-term memory issue, so my long-term memory is solid, but my short-term memory is not that great. So that's why I like to jump in and out and try to do these live streams as soon as I can. Now, what I'll do, I'll jump in the session right now, and I'll give y'all folks more like a 2-3 minute briefing on and summary on other things that I was working on previous to this, and so you could see some of the stuff that built up to it. So we'll transition in. Let's go in effectively. So here we go. I'll show you something that I was doing. These were some transitional type of animations that I worked on. And the character that I'm using is Abe. He's from Mixamo, and his animation is from Mixamo as well, Mixamo.com. So this basically was more like a block, or how would you say, like a rectangle. It started off as a cube and I made it into a rectangle, and it has the illusion that he's jumping on a moving block or a rectangle, but he's not actually. As you can see, it's solid, stiff in that frame, and in the other frames he's moving with it. So I did a camera trick that Hollywood does in terms of creating motion graphics. So yeah, sometimes it helps to watch a lot of stuff in Hollywood to get some ideas on your animations. So let me try to jump into another one. Here goes that block again. So this is basically what he's doing from the backside. And so here it is again, but this one is a little bit of a angle change, I think, showing the backside of it. And all these are rendered in Blender. There it is again. Then I changed the ground plane, just playing around just to see how it would look with a different texture. And that leads me over here. Excuse me, sorry about that. I have a little issue with my throat, so I shall drink some water, try to get that to bypass through my system. All right, so here we go. We're going to go over and showcase the end result of what I was able to pull off. This is a camera flip and camera animation type of project that I worked on, and that happened yesterday. Actually, yesterday late evening, early morning, and pretty much this is the full animation itself. So it shows the camera animated, rotating around, as you can see, towards his leg. Then he was staring at the Suzanne monkey on the floor. Then he's running and is animating his eyes and what he's seeing. So that's pretty much it right there in a nutshell. And I'll show you the full animation here so you can see again what it actually did and what it does. So I was able to successfully pull off the full scale animation. I blended everything together, and I'll show you the different phases of the animations that I've blended. Now, I utilized the timeline as well as the NLA editor to pull this off, but the NLA editor I don't like that much because it has some issues where I get glitches, and that's where this live stream comes in terms of the glitch fix that I figured out. But I actually got help. So I'll bring y'all folks also to the video / channel that I got the help from. I believe it is CGDive. But don't quote me on that. I have to double check and see. Before I do that, I would like to talk about my sponsor. This is not a paid sponsorship, by the way, folks, but I do help them and they help me in differing formats and ways. They help me learn how to do a lot of my animation stuff that I know now on Blender, and in transition I was able to partner with them. So this is PixCap. I don't know if y'all folks ever tried it out, or maybe you heard of it. I don't know. It's brand new to the online world in general, and they recently launched to public. They went public, so it would behoove you to try it out and test it if you're into animation. It definitely has something much more that meets the eye than the average animation software. You can pull off a lot of different things. You can learn a lot about animation if you don't know anything about animation, and you don't have to download anything on your computer. It's on the web. So you go to pixcap.com. Don't have to download anything pretty much, unless you're trying to submit your own animations, or you're trying to like import your own animations to it, or get a custom rig that you can build / model from PixCap itself. It has a third party, which is Wolf 3D and Ready Player Me type of thing they have set up, and you can go in and then you would have to export more of a animatable file / 3D model. That 3D model will come back as an import file back to PixCap. So let me see if I can log in just to show y'all folks real quick, just a little slight preview before we get into this live stream. But I think my login was already set up. I'm not sure, and it doesn't seem like my login is set up. So that's a little problem, but I'll bring y'all folks back to this eventually, maybe in another live session or another session, because this is not what it's all about. So let's bounce out of here, and we're gonna go to, maybe let's go over real quick to Mixamo so you can see some of the animation stuff that I started out with. That way, for those who are brand new to this session, they won't, lose track. But before we get into that portion of the animation fix and the NLA editor glitch fix stuff that I was working on, I'll show you the flip animation that I did work on. So let me, I guess I'm gonna have to log in again to Mixamo. Mixamo is an pre-configured animation website. So they basically have animations built into it, and you can also get characters on Mixamo. So they all pre-configured. I would believe that all of them are from real live human motion capture data that they captured through a studio, and they transferred all the data into these 3D models, just like any motion capture software would do. if it wasn't markerless, or it would be like a data point type of motion capture suit that you would have to wear. So I believe all of these files are of that nature. These turn into FBX files, these animations, when you're trying to export pretty much. So what we're gonna do is try to get that flip back. Man, where did that flip go? Let's see, flip. There it is, run to flip. So this is pretty much what I got from Mixamo, and it comes just like this. Nothing else is tied to it. So how do you get that animation to become a full-fledged animation blend with other animations? So pretty much I was able to do that in my previous session, to try to get them to work together, but it failed when I was trying to get this one to blend with the other, and it sent this one back to the origin point on Blender. And I've had that problem for many years, but I thought I fixed it. But when it comes to flipping, it's not easy to fix. It's not something that's gonna correct itself right away. You can't even use the graph editor to fix this easily, because when you go in the graph editor on Blender, all of the animatable keyframes and the graphs, the curves and all that stuff are like all over the place. So you can't really tell where to grab and where to pull on the graph editor to adjust that particular origin point. So I had issues with that. So let's go back over to Blender so I can show you exactly what I mean. So let me get rid of the ground plane, and this is basically a cube that I scaled out and turned it into a floor. It could be a long floor, but I had some issues and glitches on Blender 3.1 with some of the ground plane having issues where it would pop up and down, in and out, depending on where I rotated on the screen like this. So let's go and hit the back arrow so you can see the starting point. So what I decided to do, I tied together and blended some other animations starting out. So this guy, he's doing an idle type of move starting out. You'll see here. So right now we're but we're simulating its motion in Eevee. So it's real-time simulation. It's not an actual render. And so it's going to keep doing this. What I did is I looped the first idle, so that way the cameras that I had built in could play around and manipulate the motion and the graphics and display two different sets of motion. Then I had him run. As you can see, he's running towards the wall, and then he does that flip. So as you can see, it's a seamless transition from the Mixamo file. Let's jump back to the Mixamo file. It's only about a few seconds, this flip right here. So as you can see, let me move the playhead. Let's go back to around 900 or so. I think it's 999 where I got it to on the end of the timeline. So what we're gonna do is go around the flip area. So this is pretty much right here is where I did the blend, and you cannot see any issues with the legs. I'm going in slow motion. There's no issues with the legs whatsoever. He transitions from a slower jog to a somewhat slight sprint, and then flips off the wall as the animation has him do. The flip, the run flip or something like that animation. So let's go back. He does a slight sprint from an idle. If you don't know what an idle is, let's see real quick. Idle is basically just the stationary swaying motion. His body idles for about a brief second before he runs and does the flip off the wall. And obviously there's no wall here. Hold on one second. There's no wall here, so I had to build the wall on Blender, which is nothing. It's just a cube that eye scaled out as well. So there you go with that. So how do you do all of this? Well, what I had to do, I had to bust out the NLA editor, and that was kind of tough. So what I think I should do in this live stream is show you from scratch how I did it, but break it down going backwards. So let's go backwards in time. I believe I have another project open here, and this is the one that has all of the project work that I was doing. So at one point I was doing a little bit of cleanup of my animation project work because it was stuff that was scattered everywhere and I had all kinds of junk on the screen, so I had to get rid of that stuff. So let's hit the play button so you can see it does the same thing, but this one has the camera attached to his head and to his eyes basically. So the camera basically is simulating his eye motion as if his head is moving around and is the camera. So I wanted to do like a first-person shooter type of video and play around and do something different that most people don't do in animation and in creating video for their characters or anything like that. They usually do that in video games. So I figured, let me try to make a camera flip where he is being recorded. He's actually recording at the point of where he's flipping at. Well, not he's recording, but he's being recorded. His motion is being recorded at the point where he's flipping. So then I decided, well, let me just play around and add multiple cameras and multiple angles just to play around with markers and camera binds and things like that, just to showcase to people in my live stream that I was doing yesterday how you can do it and how it could play into creating unique looking scenes and things like that. It could be on Blender, it could be on Unreal Engine, it could be on Unity. I know on all of those 3D software you can actually animate the cameras. So that's one of the things I wanted to play with. So let's move the timeline real quick so you can see the part where I was talking about the camera flip. So let's scroll back a little bit so you can see where the camera is going to flip. And that's why it kind of had a lot of motion in that final render that I came up with. It's not the best render possible, but that was something that I wanted to just to play with, just to see what I could do. So here we go. We're going to hit the play button and pause it. And as you can see, the camera is following his head. See? So say I wanted to render just that. After I did pull off that camera flip, I can do it right here. I'll select the camera, go to view, go to set active, and then let's see where we're at. We actually have a marker for it too already. So I'll put another marker instead of just working on that marker. Oops, that was a mistake. Hold on one second. Marker, add mark. What am I doing? Hold on one second. There we go. Somewhere around here. Add marker. And then go to bind camera to marker. There we go. So when you bind the camera, it basically takes over the previous camera's position in your animations. If you don't know how to do camera animations, it's not really that hard. You just have to get into the you either use the timeline or you could use the dope sheet, and then you just go in and you create markers, and wherever you create a marker, you have to go to view and go to set active object as camera, or you can press the control button on the keyboard and the number pad, the 0 on the number pad on your keyboard. You press one after the next and then they basically will move to that particular camera and set that camera as the active camera. If you want to transition to another one, you can hit the 0 key on the keyboard and then go to the other camera, select it, press 0. But when you do that, it's not 100% transitioned because it just moves over to the camera. It did not change the camera. So you just do Control 0 and then it will change the camera. And let's see, I think that one changed it. There it is. So now I changed it to that camera. So let's change it to the other one. See, so I did Control 0 and now I switched to the other one. All right, so let me hit the play button so you can see how the camera flips. And that's what I was trying to create. I just came up with it in my mind on the fly, and I just wanted to see what it could do. So it worked out. It really was great. But let me show you the NLA editor part where I was working on. So what I'm gonna have to do, this one, I believe I saved it. And if I didn't, I'll save a new one. So hold on one second. We will save this as hop 3, just in case. Okay, so then we're gonna go back in time and see what hop 2 did. I just want to see what I had working and if I can get the error to come up. Just to show y'all folks my error that I had. Okay, so this is not showing the error. So it's probably hop 1. All right, so I just duplicated hop 2. It's okay. Don't save. It says it can't read the file. Why not? Oh, because it's in a different location. Okay. So we're going to go open, don't save, hop 1, open. Okay, so here we go. This is the issue. So we got one running straight and then stopping near the wall. That's one animation. And that's towards the end of my actual animation setup in the timeline. So all of my keyframes will end around 692 for this particular project that I had worked on. And let me see. So going to the end is 692. So you have to go back to the beginning. So I have to go jump to the end point. But I can't go all the way to the beginning because I have to turn the start point at 1 instead of 551. I was just building up different animations at the time. So we're going to hit the back arrow or jump to endpoint, and then we're going to scroll out and go to the start point. So at the start point, that's where you're going to see this flip here. There goes the flip. So what this is just a separate FBX file. There's one FBX file for the run that has all the different animations I tied in together. I did that on a separate project setup. And then I cleaned up all those files and all those animations and made sure that it presented itself the way I wanted it. All those were easy for me to make the blend and transitions because all it is idles and runs. Runs in place or idles and runs in place. But then when you get the flip to try to get blended, you really do have a big issue, which is this flip will reset itself back to the origin point if you try to blend it through the timeline. So what I mean is you select all the bones. And this is the problem that I showed that I ended in the last session. So I'll just start up on this session just to showcase that error so people who didn't watch that one could see what I had to deal with. So now I'm in pose mode. I got all the bones selected and I want to right click and copy all of the keyframes. Usually when I want to blend something in the timeline, I will copy all the keyframes as long as it's the same rig type slash skeletal digital bone structure. Then I can copy all the keyframes onto the next FBX file at whatever point that I want to add them in. And I can grab whatever number of bones. Maybe it could be an individual bone, multiple bones. It doesn't matter. Whatever I want to choose, I can copy it over as long as that rig is the same from the other FBX file or mixed blended animations that I got previously. So now let's scroll out and go to the other rig, and you can't select it yet until you move out of pose mode. So let's go to object mode, select the rig, and so what I'm going to do now is try to copy it and go to the end at 692. So the 690 something frame, I go all the way to the end and I do Control V. So if you see what it did, it pretty much sent this all the way back to the origin point. So I'm going to show y'all folks what the NLA fix is supposed to be for this issue. But I have produced a glitch out of that fix, that original fix that I found from someone else's channel. So let me just show you real quick what it does. So it runs towards the wall right here, and it doesn't do any flip at the wall. So it runs to the wall, and instead it starts running backwards. Not even running backwards, it just slides backwards. See that? And then the origin point is right here where you see this little dot. So the reason why that dot is there is because what previously started there in this particular FBX file, it's going to have that same origin point still there. It just doesn't move if you don't go on to the NLA editor and try to blend it. And or if you don't move the curves in the graph editor. So like I said, I had issues with the graph editor, so I couldn't do it with that one. I tried it, but it didn't work. And I also had issues with the NLA editor. So see, it's flipping at the origin point of the previous animation. So it basically gets sucked back over here instead of flipping up here. So what I'm going to do is delete this one because I really don't need it. I already got that information, that data. So we're going to delete it. But I will need it in the future, so I'm going to bring it back and you'll see what I mean. So from that point, I went over to the graph editor. That didn't work. I'm not going to show you all that stuff because that's going to take up too much time. What we're going to do is go over to the NLA editor tool, and we're going to go in and manipulate on this and just go somewhat, not hard, but we're going to go at it just to show y'all folks what I had to do. So pretty much where I wanted to place it is somewhere back here around where that run cycle ends, and somewhere around here is where I wanted to have that flip inserted. So I also could delete a lot of these keyframes, but I'm not going to do that right now. That's not something that I can actually do at the moment anyway in the NLA editor. So what I could do in the NLA editor is drop and push down what is known as an action. So you push down the action by hitting this little arrow here at this icon area. I don't know why they make it this way. They could make it a lot better, a lot more visual, a lot more understandable of what you're actually having to do. But this NLA editor is so bizarre on Blender. It's just the way that the developers made it. It has so many functionalities and so many possibilities of what you can create with it that it's somewhat confusing, especially for a newbie who has no idea what in the world it's used for or how to use it. So you basically will have to watch YouTube tutorials of tons of videos that people have utilized it and played with it and figured out stuff and then came up with like the best ways to use it. So let me go to that video that I was talking about that helped me to figure out some stuff. So if you want to learn from somebody who's really good at the NLA editor, you can go to this channel here, CGDive, and most definitely check out this video. So this was made in April 8th or on April 8th, 2021. And it was for Blender 2.8 and 2.9. But now we're already advanced to Blender 3.0, which is the stable version, and Blender 3.1. That one is the alpha version right now. They just testing it, playing around with it. And that's the one that I'm using now. So that's up to you. Whatever version of Blender you want to use this for, these techniques, but this is second to none. Go check it out. It's really crucial information if you want to learn how to blend animations. But most definitely, if you're playing around with Mixamo animations, the fix that I have here, in addition to the stuff that you'll learn off of his video, will help you for sure. And you'll be able to get out of those issues that you probably had in the past. So, at what juncture did I learn the really juicy information from this video? I'll show you folks when I come right back. So I just wanted to show y'all folks that particular video. Oh, and I forgot to name what it's called. It's called Character Animation using NLA, Nonlinear Animation / editor. I believe it's an editor because you can edit animations using it. So at what point did I go wrong or go right? Basically, I went wrong after I applied that action. So I dropped the action down. Let's go. We're going to throw the action in. And then from that point, this is just the run action. This is not the actual flip action. The flip action is something entirely different. But I have it tied together, so it's going to show both. Towards the end, it's going to do the flip. See that? So actually, this is not the way that I wanted it to be done. So what we'll do is go into the timeline. Actually, we'll edit, undo, because it's not the exact way that I did it. And we're going to go to the timeline, and we're going to get rid of those keyframes at the back end, because I actually had two separate items on the screen, and I got rid of the back keyframes that I just did for the flip because it failed in the timeline. Usually when I'm trying to troubleshoot and figure out my errors and things like that, I go back and I undo a lot of stuff, so that way I get rid of any potential flaws that I can bring into something else. So let me delete. So I deleted all those keyframes, so there's not going to be a flip in it no more. But that flip data is stored. So whenever you bring in an FBX, it's going to be stored for actionable purposes in the NLA editor. So keep that in mind. If you bring a whole lot of animations or you do a lot of animation work, the NLA editor might be flooded with too much stuff and it might be hard for you to navigate it. And I had that problem. That's how I figured it out. I would say about a week ago or something when I was doing one of these Playground live series sessions. So animation Playground series sessions. So let's go now back to the NLA and let's push that down. And this time you'll see that it's not as much animatable frames. So these are all keyframes here, but you can't manipulate them right now. You got to push down the action first, and you can't even manipulate them at this point. Once you push it down, all the keyframes basically go away, so that now they can't be accessed until you manipulate the actions that you choose to edit. So you got to do a lot of different manipulations of your actions, and once you're happy and you're content with what type of actions you edited in there in your NLA, then you have to bake it. So I'll show y'all folks what I came up with in terms of that, but for now I want to add an action strip. What that means is that I'm going to add the flip action. So the flip animation, I want to add it towards the end, somewhere back here. Now sometimes I have issues with the NLA editor where it doesn't want to add for me what I'm trying to add. So sometimes it takes some time. So also you have to know which animation you're working with. So which animation and which layer that you're working with, because a lot of these animations are based on animation layers. So usually I just play around until I get something that works. That's basically how I do it. And sometimes it just won't work until you do something else as well. So you have to just click multiple things and then hope that it works. So what I did, I clicked the NLA track, and let's see what it does. Okay, so let's see if that's the flip. Yep, that's the flip right there. All right, so to cut pretty much out of the equation a lot of the issues that I saw, I'm not going to go into every single issue. First thing is I want to back up the wall a little bit, because this flip is actually a slight run as well. It's not just an idle. So let me try to zoom in real quick so you can see again the flip. So it's like a couple steps and then it flips. So 1, 2, and then it flips off the wall. So what I had to do, what I learned from that guy's channel, is that once you bring in the second action, hold on one second, you want to select the one that you want to put at the tail end and transition and blend in, and you want to move it over to a position where you want it to actually land. So how you can manipulate that, you can click on the bone or skeletal structure, and you can try to move it into the position where you wanted it to land at. So before you move it, position the first one, which is the ending animation, which is right here, and find out where it stops moving, or whatever the case may be, or where you want it to stop moving. Then you go to its bone structure, you go to pose mode, and you go to maybe like its front toe, or the second one, the bone itself. And what you want to do is use the shift key, S key, and then cursor to selected. You also could do let me see, pose, snap. So you go to pose, the pose option, go to snap, and then go to cursor to selected. And that does the same thing. The reason why you want to position the cursor is because you want to know where that actual bone ends, where the animation ends. So that way when you get the other move, you can bring it in. So we're going to bring in the other move, and we're going to slide it in with the move tool. So we're going to select the bones, or just hit the A key while you're in pose mode, and that'll allow you to move the whole entire thing. And you just slide it forward. This is not creating an animation, by the way, folks. This is just moving it in a reference point position, so you know where you wanted it at. So say you wanted it right there, I would generally put it a little bit more forward from the original position, or not original position, but the ending animation, which is the one below over here. So the ending animation, actually I got it in the wrong position. So let's go back to the foot, maybe put it there, shift S, cursor to selected, and then move the other one in. See, it goes all the way back and it didn't go forward. See, so if you want to correct that, the fix is coming now. But what you're going to notice, hold on one second, select all. What you're going to notice is that, hold on one second, let's get him on the floor. So the transition is this part. The beginning of this one should transition where the other one ends. So let's move it over here. And like I said, this does not create the animation. This doesn't create the animation blend, I should say. This just pretty much gets a starting point reference. So this is where I want to reference it at. So now what I learned to do is you have to select this little arrow. There's almost an invisible arrow where you can hit the N key on the keyboard. You can either go to the right, upper right, where the timeline is and pull it out, or hit the N key on the keyboard. The N key is probably better. You can also hit the T key on the keyboard, but it's not going to bring out any toolbar here because I guess it's not working. But yeah, you don't need that one. And what did I do over here? I don't know. I did something wrong. Okay. So pretty much what you're trying to do is bring out this menu option here that has edited action. Starts off in edited action. You can go down to strip and you can go down to modifiers. In this part where it says strip, you want extrapolation to have hold forward. So you want to make sure that this is set to hold forward. I already have it set, that's why it shows up like that, but it generally will start out in hold for extrapolation. So you go to strip, make sure you switch it to hold forward, and then change replace to combine. And as soon as you do that, guess what? It moves the entire origin point forward. So it moves it all the way forward. So basically the hold forward means for you to move it forward. That way, when you're trying to get the animation to work, it's pretty much blending around that point. This is where the NLA editor benefits. But if you notice, look at the legs. The legs are doing some funky stuff. So this is where the glitch is and where I'm going to show y'all folks the kind of fix that I got. Now the fix that I have for it is not what most people would think you can do. The fix that I have for it is to basically isolate the hip bone. So keep that in mind. I'm going to isolate the hip bone. Just keep that in your mind and that's it. And we got these people that are showing up putting some weird spam on my page. I don't know why, but whatever. So on my chat area. So basically you got that hip bone, and that hip bone is all that we need to be reanimated, or to be moved, I should say. But the other thing is that if you see and you notice the leg positions, it doesn't have a great transition for the leg. So you also want the leg to at least run and flip off the wall properly. So let's bring the wall over. We're going to go to to object mode. We're going to slide the wall over till you see the ball of the foot touch it. So that's that point right there. And now we're going to fix the leg issues. How you fix the leg issues, I figured out from this. It looks like the legs are good, but as soon as it transitions into the armature, it doesn't do good. So what you do is go over here and then select auto blend, and that automatically fixes it. Auto blend in, because what that does is it inserts a certain value for the blend feature of the animation. So what it's going to do is take both animations and blend them together at a certain juncture in time. But then if you notice, the legs will still break / get corrupted. So that's where the glitch occurs. The arms are kind of distorted. Everything is distorted. How you can figure that out is by bringing back the original animation. So we're going to do that. We're going to go to import FBX and run to flip, which is that original animation from Mixamo, which is this one here. And I don't know why it's not working, but let's show you folks again. So what happened just now? Run to flip. There we go. So this original animation, you want to bring it back just to see what happens with the animation. So if you slow it down, you can actually see everything in the animation that it's supposed to do. Pretty much, hold on one second. Scroll out. Sorry about that. So pretty much what it's going to do is the legs are supposed to stay pretty much straight up and down, and they just tuck, just like a regular person would flip. They tuck, and then the arms cuff in to hold the knees at a certain point, as you can see. So you can basically go frame by frame just to see it by using the playhead here, and see the hand goes in and tucks and holds the legs in place, and then the legs eventually open back up and then go for a landing. And after the landing, he moves his right leg back and stands in like more like a defensive stance almost. So that's the whole flip animation. Now if you go back on Blender, we're going to import this bad boy because I'm going to show you folks. You already seen it, but I'm going to show it to you side by side. So we're going to move this up, and we're going to also get his animation over here. So let's push this down and move it up over here. So we'll move it to where he's actually being animated. Hold on one second. Pull it back, which is right there, right? So you want to get that to basically what's going on with that one? We're gonna pull it back a little bit just so you can see it around the same point in space where it starts. Okay, well that one ends there and that one starts there. So we have to just move it down a little bit so they both start around like that. So now you can clearly see that one of them, the arms is messed up, and also the legs are messed up. See how the legs are distorted? So what I did, I kept trying to do individual adjustments. I used the tab key when I was in these two different actions, and I tried to edit it. I did all kinds of stuff. I tried to edit frame by frame, but what it did was it messed up the walk cycle or run cycle. So when I came back to the run cycle side, it was really messed up. So all I had to do, I had to delete all of the errors that I could, but I kept the flip. Reason being is because, let me hide this one. I'm gonna show you. Oh no, that's not good. Undo. Undo. I don't know what I just did. Oh, I went to edit mode. Okay. So select that, select this. What is it doing? Oh, that's the tab, my bad. All right, we're gonna hide it. So what you can do is select these two, and all we're gonna do is bake it. We're gonna keep everything that we see here. All we care about here is the hip bone, which is, let me show you, the hip bone. The reason why you want to keep and care about the hip bone, not really keep, but you want to care about the hip bone because the hip bone is the only thing you need to be animated. So what you want to do is watch the path of the hip bone and see if it has any issues. So you just follow where the hip bone is going. See if the hip bone does a nice rotation, and if it lands properly in a good position. That's all you have to care about, because you can copy all of the rest of the animations after you bake this two actions back to to the animatable keyframes. So what I mean by baking it back, for those who use the NLA editor, they understand it. But for people who are brand new to it, you have to bake these two actions to get them to merge together and blend fully. Right now, all we have is just a transition, a smooth transition from here to here, and then we got the errors of the bones. Like I said, I'm not worried about the errors of the bones because all I'm going to do is focus on that hip bone. And that hip bone is going to be the only thing that helps me here. So what we're going to do is go to, let's see, object mode, go to object, go to animation, and go to bake action. When you go to bake action, this is not really going to work unless you select the pose and object together. So you do shift and you select the pose with the left click mouse button, and as long as these two are highlighted, then it's going to bake the whole entire action where you need it. It's going to show up above the two actions. So it shows up here. So now if I delete these two, which are the two different actions I push down, those keyframes are going to lock in. So I deleted them, but you see the character's still showing an animation in motion. And hold on one second. I got an issue, which isn't too good. Maybe because I didn't select all the bones. So let's go undo, 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 undo the bake. I'm going to go all the way back. All right, so let's go to pose mode, and all I have selected is just this bone here, the hip bone. So what y'all folks saw is just the hip bone motion. So you have to make sure you select all the bones. So hit the A key to select all the bones. A means select all when you're in pose mode. Then go back to object mode and make sure the rig is selected and his mesh is selected, but I don't think you really necessarily have to do that. You definitely have to be in pose mode and select all the bones. If you key all those bones, or you select all those bones, then you should be fine when you go to bake it. So let's go do the bake again, bake action, shift select, make sure these two are selected, and click OK. And it says only bones. You have that check mark in only bones, you should be good. Now, another thing I did wrong right there, I think I don't have enough keyframes. I got 1 to 692, but I have much more actions, I think. I'm not really too sure. It might be all right. All right. So, yeah, I think it's okay. Actually, no, it's not, because it ends at 647. But I don't really need that over there. All I need is up to 693, 692 or so. So let me go edit, undo, edit, undo. All right. So that action is gone once again. And we're going to go to 740. That's what we'll do. So I didn't bake the whole entire thing. Let's go back to pose mode. Make sure that all bones are selected. We're good. Go to object, animation, bake action, and hold on one second. I'm almost doing the same error again. So what you have to do is go and change the timeline, I believe. So it could submit to, no, you don't have to change the timeline. I think you can change it in the baking area. Let's do that. Go back to the baking area, bake action, and then select 740. That's what I was supposed to do. Okay. So that's basically going to bake everything that I want. We're going to select OK. Oh, I messed up again. I didn't select the pose. See that? Let's go back, undo, So you're going to go through different errors if you're not thinking properly. Sorry about that. Want to insert keyframe. So there we go. We got that, and we got to make sure we go to 740. So go from the first frame, start with that first frame, and go to the end frame to get everything in there. Okay, now it's going to bake everything, and it should turn out the way that you expected it. So like I said, this has the little error in it, has the glitch, but we're not worried about that. All we worried about is the hip bone, and you'll see after I'm done with this why I say that. So there we go. Look, it's going to have him hop backwards on one leg, which is crazy. That's not what we want, but I'm not worried about it. So we're going to delete these two now, and now we should have the full animation. We got everything. Boom. Beginning idle to the flip with all the broken bones and stuff. So right around here, what we can do is bring in the other character. So we're going to do alternate H. That's why I brought him in. And we're going to select his bones, go to pose mode, and we're going to grab everything from him. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the timeline now. So zoom out, flip over to the timeline. And this is what most people are not going to think of doing. And then we got to pull it down, right? Let's see, summary. Why isn't it showing? It should be at the first beginning frame on the timeline. So what is wrong with this guy? Oh, I'm only selected on one bone. Hit the A key. Still, it should be here, showing in the timeline. I do see it over here in this bad boy, which is the... Actually, I don't see it over here. Maybe because it turned into an action. It says no action. What happened? I don't know. Oh, yeah, we did. We turned it into an action and we pushed it over here. I forgot about that. So since we turned it into the action, we don't have any keyframes. But that's not a bad deal because we still can manipulate it. So what we're going to do is bake this one and just turn it back into his bones. I don't know. Nah, we'll just delete it. Let's delete it. We'll delete that and we'll delete the whole entire thing. Let's delete everything. That doesn't matter because we can always get it back. So what we're going to do is go File, Import, FBX. Let's see, Run to Flip. That's the original one. And we're going to bring him in where we want to bring him. So we're going to move him over here, somewhere in this area around where he does his flip. So he does the flip on the wall. We don't really care where he's flipping at. We're just going to take his animations. So we go to pose mode and we're going to steal his keyframes. So here goes the timeline. And we will right click and copy. So basically you're going to copy all those keyframes. But if you copy every single thing, remember I was talking about the hip bone. You don't want to copy his hip bone. Because if you copy his hip bone, it's going to bring you back to the origin again. Instead, you're going to copy every single bone except for the hip bone. This is where the fix comes in and the trick. So how do you do that? You can go to wireframe if you want to. So you can go select wireframe. It does it pretty easy instead of having to go over to the right module and to find the in front and press that. You don't have to do that. You just go to wireframe and just select the hip bone. Or not the hip bone, sorry about that. you select all the other bones. So go hit the A key, and then you use the Shift key on your keyboard, and then double click the hip bone so that it's no longer highlighted like this. So once it's no longer highlighted, guess what? By copying all the keyframes, you're not getting any of the keyframes for the hip bone. So all the translations, rotations, the motions of change durations of time from one point to the next point is no longer going to happen, because the hip bone is responsible for moving it forward and backward, putting it in the air if it does a flip, etc. So why not extract it, right? By deselecting it. Very simple. So now you're going to go right click, make sure everything's selected in the timeline, and do a copy. Once you do that copy, you can delete everything, but we're not going to delete it yet. We're going to go to the other armature / rig of the other character, and guess what? Now we can superimpose all those bones over his bones, but you have to find the exact juncture in time. So you got to find the exact frame to add it to. So how do you do that? That's why I positioned him here, the other character here. So what we're going to do is we're going to navigate on the individual origins to move him. And this is not going to create a keyframe as long as you don't have automatic keying set up. If you don't have this button turned blue or highlighted or selected, I should say, then you don't have to worry about the keyframes, because it's always going to jump back to the origin point, just like the problem you had before. So we're going to go over here and move him to this starting point. But actually, I did it wrong. So let's return him back. And instead, we're going to move in the timeline where the jump begins. Because I forgot, that's how you have to do it. You have to move it through the timeline. You can't move it by physically moving it with the move tool. So what you want to do here is mirror both motions. So you want to try to get an identical mirror. So in order to do that, you got to get this guy and move him over regarding his animation. So I don't remember exactly how I did that, but I did something like this, and I guess I used where the flip occurred right here when he touched the wall. I think I used that as a reference point. So then I left him there, and I grabbed this guy's bones. So let me select his bones and grab his animation and slide it all the way over until I see him do the flip. Now currently he's not doing it because his hip bone is not selected. So we have to make sure we have the hip bone selected again to move him with the proper orientation. So we'll have the hip bone selected, and then we'll position the reference properly. Let's go back to object mode, move the wall a little bit so it can somewhat help us and get the visual back. Okay, because we need this wall to kind of reference off of, which is right around there. So we will select his bones again, and where is his animations at? Okay, because his bones are not selected. There we go. And we're going to move him now, and he should show that he runs and flips. There it is. So at what point does he do the touch? So what we're going to do is move him back a little bit So where he flips. Oops, I made an error right there. Edit, undo. You can't move the playhead, by the way, at this point. You have to move all of his keyframes to show where he touches the wall. Okay, so let's move him back. This is a little tedious, this part, but it's worth it because if you're able to pull off a really good position with this part, you're gonna do some really amazing stuff. All right, let me just do it in the air first so I can see where that position is at. Look, it keeps moving. For some reason, it keeps moving. I don't know why it's moving like that. Let's see. I messed up again. Edit, undo. Hold on 1 second. Well, you know what I'm gonna do? Since I can't move him right, I'm gonna move the other character. All right, let's try that because it doesn't seem like the reference is gonna work too well for me doing it that way. So, which one is it? Let's see. I think it is this one. Okay, let's move him back. Go to pose mode, select all his bones, and see what position he touches that wall. Should be right there, actually. So I think he touches the wall there and then does the flip. So let's try to get the other guy and move him. And rotate on the individual origin or move on the individual origin. And so where is he? Select all the bones. Okay, we got that. And pretty much this is a reference here. It's about the same right there. So let's scroll backwards and see where they land. Yeah, there we go. So let's see where they start and end. So the starting point for that one, we're going to hit the right key on the keyboard, right key, right key, right key to see when the other one starts. Right there. Okay, so right where it starts, we have to figure out what keyframe that is. So that's 676. So we select on 675 and we delete everything else. Or not delete everything else. We go from over here. We're going to do Control V, paste, and that didn't work. Actually, my bad. I have to go back to what I was doing. Let's see. This is the broken one here. This is the good one. So we go to the broken one's bones and we deselect do we deselect his hip bone? No. See, this is the part that I kind of forgot. The other one, we deselected the hip bone, right? So this one, we select the hip bone and we copy everything else, I believe. So we select the hip bone and we copy all of the other data in. Kind of forgot how I did it. Yeah. No, I didn't get it. I didn't get it washed yet. Yes. So let's see. I just have to experiment with this. I kind of forgot this part. That's why I wanted to create this live stream, by the way, too, because sometimes you're going to forget things while you're trying to do something. You're trying to fix something, trying to get something working. All right. So my mindset at that point was make sure that the hip bone's motion is stored. So I need his hip bone motion. Okay. Yes. So this one I don't need. This one I do. So I'm not gonna copy all of his animations on this. All the keyframes are gonna be copied onto the rest of the bones, not the hip bone. That's what we gotta do. So we're gonna do the same thing. A and deselect the hip bone. And then we're gonna do Control V. And we will drag it back. I don't know why it's rotated, but we will drag it back to, hold on one second. We have to see what we're doing here. We're going to drag it back to the, what is it? 681, 82, 83, 84. So 685th frame. There we go. So bring it back to the 685th frame. Hold on one second. Something's wrong. Why does it have that additional keyframe? Let me delete that, because that shouldn't be there. I don't know why that's there. That's probably why it rotated in the first place. What is that rotation? Why is it rotating like that? I don't know. All right. So 685th frame. Oh, I see why that happened. Because I had it selected as well, so it was highlighted. So let's go to the 685th frame. So this is 81, 82, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85. I think that's it right there. There we go. So now you should see it do everything. Boom. Pretty much does everything the same. The only thing I'm noticing is just the leg kind of comes back delayed. So that's probably because it's not exactly in the right position. There we go. All right. So all you have to really do is look at where the other one's positioned at and see where the leg kicks back properly or not. It's just, and the timing is slightly off, but it does pretty much identical flip. Boom. So there you go. So that's the correction using the NLA editor with the broken bones. So I went from the glitched issue with the NLA editor blend to being able to fix the flip by just copying all the bones except the hip bone from one rig to the next rig. And pretty much that's it. Everything worked out. So what I can do is delete the other guy, just the rig that's not really moving much. And let's go back to object mode. I just had to think about it for a little while because I kind of forgot what I did since I did it last night. Not last night, I did it, actually I did do it last night. All right, I deleted that. Hit the play, and you'll see it does the flip. But the problem I see now is that it went back at a certain point because there's more keyframes and we ended it here at 692. So let's hit the A key to select all. Let's see where it ends. It ends at 740, around 742. So we do 742 for the end frame, and now it should work seamlessly. But I did notice that it slows down before it runs, before it takes off. So you can fix that easily. That's not a problem. But the transition is kind of a rough draft. But the one that I did it really good because it kind of accelerates into the flip. But you know, at least it worked. That's the pretty much the fix for any kind of a flip animations that you're trying to correct on Mixamo. Through Mixamo, creating blends, using Blender, blend animations. See, it slows down a little bit right there because my timing is pretty much off. But my original one, as you saw, is much better because, you know, I had a lot of time and I took a lot of time to work on it. So you don't want to rush it. You don't want to rush it no matter what you do. You'll see this one will speed up a little bit in its transition. It's kind of better. Well, not necessarily. It doesn't speed up, but it transitions pretty cool. Like seamlessly, it goes straight through. All you see is just a little slight arm change position. But the arm is going to change naturally anyway when you're doing that kind of a move to make a flip. So like you'll see the arm. See. Yeah, the arm cuffs into a fist, I think. Right here. Oh no, it snaps down. You can fix that too. Let's see. The arm pauses there and snaps down right there. But that's not bad. That's not a bad deal. That's actually, it's still fakeable. It looks pretty good. So there you go. Hopefully y'all guys and gals like this solution that I have for the NLA editor. I'm gonna come up with much more than meets the eye. This is just the start. I'm gonna come up with tons of animations now that I know I can manipulate things with the NLA editor. And I have another way of doing this fix as well without using the NLA editor at all. What I decided to do is think about how I create my animations, and at this transition I can go and build upon just the frame by frame reference clips, image clips. So what I'm talking about is when you create these little image clips frame by frame, you can actually manipulate the graphics frame by frame through rendering. So if you need to fix something, you just go into the start and end points and say I wanted to do the flip. I start the flip here, have the transition at one point in between, and then I create an illusion that it actually is blended together by moving one rig to one position and animate that one, then move the other rig to another position and animate that one separately. Create the renders separately by spacing out these start and end points and doing individual clips and building up the clips, and then eventually you puzzle them together so that it fits into a nice free flowing transition. Plus you can have it switch camera positions and angles, and that could substitute for the lack of having a good blend of an animation. So camera angles could do that as well, like I was showing with these different camera angle changes. Creates the illusion of a merger. But if you want it to be more believable, obviously you want it to be a fluid animation going through before you have a camera transition. Definitely for a flip, you want to show the full flip and maybe an idle transition into an idle. But there's a lot of ways to play with it. I'll be showing folks more on that frame by frame reference thing, how to build up the animations through rendering, because some people don't understand the rendering side, because maybe they just get stuck in the Blender viewport and trying to do all of this manipulation and don't do enough rendering. But I know for a fact when I first started, I didn't render that much, but you have to use the render options here, and you can test your renders by going view animation. You render animation here, but you have to set up your settings for rendering up in these tools first. Make sure you have the right render engine, and then make sure you're formatting properly with the right frame rate and sending it to the right correct output that you want, and whatever type of file type you wanted it to be in a file format. And other than that, I'm out. Joe, love and peace to all. Mike Pugh signing off. Feel free to share this video socially if you feel it's going to impact other people and benefit them in any form, fashion, or factor. And I'll catch you next time. Virtual Intel signing off.